Hey everyone, it's Arash here, and in this crash course, we're gonna design this hero section in Penpot. If you have never heard of it before, Penpot is an open source web-based design and prototyping platform, and many people consider it a good Figma alternative. So let's get started. Here I'm on Penpot's website, it's penpot.app, and you can sign up for free right here or log in with your Gmail account. As soon as you log in, you will be taken to this page. This is your Penpot dashboard. Generally speaking, Penpot's interface is very similar to Figma, so you can easily learn how it works. So here I have projects, I have drafts, I can go to shared libraries. You can find all your libraries here. And if you want to use custom fonts in your projects, you can upload your custom fonts right here and install them. All right, now let's go to drafts and just click on this new file button to create a new file or new project. I'm going to double click on it, and here we are inside a project. As you can see, the panels and the main layout are very similar to Figma. So on the left side, we have the toolbar instead of top. Here we have a few tools like the board tool, which allows you to create a frame or artboard basically. We have the rectangle, ellipse, the text tool, the image tool, pencil or curve, path, and here we have the comments. Right at the bottom, you can go to typographies. In this panel, you can find all your text styles. You can go to color palette, and here you can find all your color styles. If you want to learn more about the shortcuts, you can go to the shortcuts panel right there. Here, right next to the toolbar, we have the layers pane and the assets pane. Here you can find all your pages and all your layers. And in the assets panel, you can find all your components, graphics, colors, typographies. Here you can create color styles, text styles, and they will be categorized here for you. Okay? On the right side, we have two panels. We have the design inspector panel and the prototype panel. So on the design panel, you can find all the properties related to a specific layer. So if I go ahead and create, for example, a rectangle, you can see that a few other properties appear like layer, fill, stroke, shadow, blur, and export. I'm going to remove that for now. And using the prototype panel, you can create interactions and make your design interactive. So basically you can create a high fidelity prototype. And right at the top, you can just hit this play button to enter the view mode and preview your project. Alright, so now let's design a hero section inside Penpot to utilize all these different features. But before we start, I'd like to point out that at the moment, Penpot doesn't have many popular features like auto layout or smart animate. But the good news is they are working on it. They are working on the auto layout feature. And also, if you are thinking of importing your Figma file into Penpot, at the moment it's not possible, but they are working on creating a Figma plugin that could convert your Figma project into a Penpot file. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and change my canvas background. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Okay. And to start designing, we need a frame or artboard. You can simply select this board tool, or you can hit A on your keyboard and just left click and drag to create a frame here. And on the right side, you can open up this drop menu to use one of these pre-built frames, but I'm gonna specify the dimensions here myself. I'm gonna set the width to 1440 and the height to 1140, just like that. Let me rename my layer to desktop, and then I'm gonna go ahead and create a grid for my design. So I'm gonna use a 12 column grid for this project. And I can head over to the grid section in the inspector on the right side and just click on this plus button. I can change the type of grid from square to columns. And here you can specify the number of columns you need. In this case, we need 12. And to adjust the settings of your grid, you can click on this three dot icon on the left side. And here I'm going to change the gutter and margin. I'm going to set the gutter to 16 pixels. And the margin to 80 pixels, just like that. I think it looks good. And now we can start working on our project. Basically, we are going to design a hero section for an e-learning platform. It's going to be an imaginary company, and I'm going to call it Maze. Let's start by creating the logo. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to select the text tool, left click to create a text layer, and let's write maze. Okay, and then on the right side, I'm gonna head over to the text section right here, adjust the font. Let me look for the Inter font right there, and I'm gonna increase the font size to 16 points. Let's adjust the weight to 700. Okay, good. And right here in the center, I'm gonna have a few menu items. So I'm gonna duplicate this text layer, hit Ctrl D or Command D, hold down the Shift key and move it to the right side. Let me zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna double click on it and adjust it to features. This is gonna be our first menu item. I'm gonna duplicate it, move it to the right side. Let me change it to pricing. And for the last menu item, I'm gonna duplicate it, hit Ctrl D or Command D, and let's write blog. So far so good. I'm gonna change the weight of these text layers. So I'm gonna select them all simultaneously, hold down the Shift key and click on them one by one, and head over to the selection text section here and adjust the weight to 500. On the right side here, I'm gonna place two buttons. I'm gonna have a sign in button and a sign up button. So let me select one of these text layers, duplicate it, move it to the right side, and here I'm gonna write sign in. I'm gonna duplicate it, move it to the right side, and here I'm gonna write sign up, just like that. Well, I'm gonna make this sign up button a filled button, so it's gonna have a background. Let me zoom in and use the rectangle tool to create a background for it, just like this. I'm gonna set its height to 56 pixels, and its width, I can set it to 130. We can adjust it later. And in the layers list, I'm gonna bring this rectangle layer and put it below my text layer. Let me select them both and align them both horizontally and vertically. I'm gonna select my text and I'm gonna check the padding here. To check the padding, you can hold down the Option or Alt key on your keyboard. And as you can see, my top and bottom padding are set to 18 pixels, and my left and right padding are set to roughly 37 pixels. So I'm gonna adjust it. I'm gonna set the top and bottom padding to 16 pixels. Therefore, I need to decrease the height by 4 pixels. I can just select this rectangle, head over to the size property right here, and I'm gonna write -4, just like that. Let me realign them once again. Now I have a 16 pixel top and bottom padding. And for the left and right padding, I'm gonna double this vertical padding amount. So I'm gonna get a 32 pixel left and right padding. Let me select this rectangle, and here for the width, I'm gonna write -10. And let me see if I align them, what would be the padding. Okay, so I'm gonna need 121. Once again, let me align them, and there it is. I'm gonna make this button completely rounded, so I'm gonna select it, and here I'm gonna increase the corner radius amount to something like 30 to make sure that it's gonna be completely rounded. And for now, I'm not gonna change its color. I'm just gonna select the rectangle and this text layer, and I'm gonna group them. To group layers, you can easily hit Ctrl G or Command G on your keyboard. All right, perfect. So before we move on to the next section, let's align these elements. I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna make sure that this button touches this right side of my column right there. And I'm gonna select this button, move it to the left side. And if I hold down the Option or Alt key, you can see that the margin in between is set to 56 pixels, which is very good. I'm gonna keep it as is. Next, I'm gonna select these menu items. And here at the top, I'm gonna click on this distribute horizontal spacing to have an even spacing in between. And let me see what's the padding in between. I'm gonna set it to 56 pixels. So let me move it to the right side using my arrow keys, just like that. All right, so far so good. I'm gonna select them all and hit Ctrl G or Command G to group them. Let me rename it to menu. And I'm gonna select these two, group them, and I'm gonna call it CTA. I'm gonna select this menu group and align it horizontally to keep it at the center. And then I'm gonna select this logo. Let me rename it to logo here quickly and just align it to the left side of my column grid. Now let's select all these three groups and align them vertically. The top margin is set to 72 pixels and I'm gonna keep it as is. All right. Now let's move on to the next section. Let's work on the content of our hero section. I'm going to have a title right here. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to create a text layer, and I'm going to copy and paste the title that I already prepared. Alright, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and increase its font size to 52 points. And also I'm going to make it bold. So let's change the weight to 800, just like that. It says upgrade your skills for a better future, a good value proposition. I'm gonna put it right here. However, I'm gonna decrease the width of this text layer, okay? I'm gonna make sure that it covers 6 columns right at the center. So I'm gonna hold down the Alt or Option key on my keyboard, hover over this boundary on the right side, left click and drag to make it smaller, just like this. Okay, I'm gonna put it right there. Let me zoom in. Here I'm gonna change the text type to auto height, just like that, and I'm gonna align it to the center, and also I'm gonna align this whole text layer to the center and just decrease the width of this text layer to something like this. I think it looks very good now. Now we need a subtitle here. I'm gonna duplicate it, hit Ctrl D or Command D, put it here, and I'm gonna copy and paste the subtitle that I already prepared. There it is. Choose from over 3,000 courses on topics like graphic design, UI UX design, motion graphics, and much more. I'm gonna decrease its font size because it's way too big for our subtitle. Let's decrease it to 22 points. And also I'm gonna change its weight to 500 to have a better visual hierarchy. And since we have a small text here, we can increase the line height. I'm gonna write 130% right here to have a little bit more space between these two lines. And now I'm gonna hold down the Option or Alt key on my keyboard, left click and drag to expand this text layer boundary to something like this. We will adjust the margins here later. Now let's move on to the next element. Right below this subtitle, I'm gonna have 2 different CTAs, a Get Started button and a Learn More button. So let's create one quickly. I'm gonna hit R on my keyboard to select the rectangle tool, create a rectangle just like that. Let's set the height to 56, and its width is gonna cover 2 columns here. Okay, so in this case it's gonna be 200. Let me make it completely rounded and just add a text layer, and let's write Get Started. Okay, good. Let me put it here. Next, I'm gonna decrease its font size to 16 points. Okay, let me align it. I'm gonna increase its height by 2 pixels. Let me increase it to 58 pixels, and I'm gonna align it once again to have a 16 pixel top and bottom padding. Next, we can group them, and I'm gonna duplicate this button, hit Ctrl D or Command D, move it to the right side, and I'm gonna change its text to Learn More. Let me realign it. Now I'm gonna change the type of this button to an outline button to have a better visual hierarchy, since we don't want to put 2 buttons with the same type next to each other. This way our users can easily determine the importance of each button. So I'm gonna select this button, and let me select this rectangle layer in the layers list. I'm gonna remove the fill from it, and instead let's add a stroke to it. Let's increase the stroke width property to 2 pixels, and also I'm gonna change it from center to inside. It's much better now. I just need to reposition them. Let me select these 2 groups and move them to the right side to put them right at the center. All right, very good. What else do we need here? Right at the bottom, I'm gonna place an image that is basically a player so that the user can see a promotional video of this design school. But before we do that, I'm gonna add a background to our hero section to make these other layers pop. I already prepared a mesh gradient for this project, and you can download all the required assets from the link in the description to follow along. So let me bring that background here quickly. I'm gonna drag it and drop it right here. There it is. So I'm gonna place it somewhere around here. And in the layers list, I'm gonna make sure that it's below all my layers, just like that. All right, let me move it to the right side. Something like this looks very good. Now let's go ahead and select all these text layers, okay, these black text layers, and adjust their color to white. There we go. What about these buttons? Well, for the accent color, I'm gonna use a dark blue. So I'm gonna select this rectangle. Let me double click on it, go to fill, and let me change the color to something like this. Now I'm gonna select the text layer and change its color to white. And I'm gonna use the same color for these buttons. So I'm gonna select this rectangle, and using the eyedropper, let me select this color, adjust the text color to white as well. And for this stroke as well, let me select this rectangle, adjust the stroke color to this dark blue color. And also for the text, I'm gonna use the same dark blue color. All right, our colors look much better now. And now we can design that player that I was talking about. So for that, I found an image on unsplash.com. I put the link in the description. You can get it there. You can simply go ahead and download it. And I'm gonna drag and drop it into my project right here. Let me scale it down. It's way too big. I'm gonna bring it here. And also I'm gonna rotate it. So let's hold down the shift key, left click and drag, and rotate it like that. I still need to scale it down. So let me scale it, and I'm gonna place it right here. I'm gonna make it rounded, so I'm gonna increase the corner radius amount to 40. And also here at the center, I'm gonna place a play button. So for that, I'm gonna need a background. Let's use the ellipse tool to create a circle just like this and make it white. Let's put it right here. And I'm gonna bring the icon that I already prepared. Let me drag and drop it right here, and make sure that you align your icon both vertically and horizontally. All right, I think it looks good. I can just select them both, group them, and let's rename it to play button. Now let's align it with our image. I'm gonna select this play button, hold down the shift key, select the image, and align them both vertically and horizontally, just like that. Now I can group them, and here I'm gonna rename it to image. All right, good. Now I can add some drop shadow to this image. I can just head over to this group shadow section, hit this plus button, and I'm gonna go to this shadow settings. And here I'm gonna decrease the opacity to 10%, and I can just increase the blur amount to 50, and I'm gonna set the Y to 25. There it is. Here is our soft drop shadow. And now I'm gonna go ahead and select my desktop here. Let me hide my grid. We don't need it anymore. Now let's check our spacing. I'm gonna select this subtitle here, and I think it would be better to change its weight to regular. And I'm gonna set the top margin to 16 pixels. So let me move it up. Here it is. For these buttons, I'm gonna select them both, and I'm gonna set the top margin to 32 pixels, just like that. And then for this player, I'm gonna set the top margin to 80 pixels. All right, let me select my background and move it to the left side a little bit. I think it looks very good. I hope you like it. Now I'm gonna show you how you can create a simple prototype and a simple interaction in Penpot. I'm gonna select this desktop frame. I'm gonna duplicate it, hit Ctrl D or Command D. And let's suppose you want to create a hover interaction for this get started button, or this one, for example. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to the prototype tab, and I'm going to create a connection just like this between these two frames. So here is going to be our first state, and this one is going to be our second state. Next, I'm going to select this button here on the second screen, and I'm going to adjust its appearance however I want. So for example, I can add another fill to it. Let's use black, and then I'm gonna decrease the opacity to 50%. If I select my button here, I can select this interaction, and here we have different properties. We have the trigger, we have the action, the destination, and the type of animation. The trigger is gonna be mouse enter. At the moment, we don't have many triggers to choose from, like hover, clicked, etc. But for this effect, we are gonna use mouse enter. So as soon as I hover over this button, it's gonna transition to the second state. Here it says action, navigate to, and the destination is gonna be our second frame right here. And the type of animation is gonna be dissolve. We don't have Smart Animate at the moment, but I'm pretty sure they are working on something like that. You can adjust the duration, the easing, let's set it to is in or is out. And then we need to connect this button to this frame as well. I know it's not ideal, but that's how it works at the moment. So I need to select this button. I'm going to create another connection. And this time, here for trigger, I'm gonna choose mouse leave, okay? The animation is gonna be dissolve and is out. All right, now let's preview our prototype. I'm gonna click on this play button. And if I hover over this button, look what happens. There it is. So as you can see, it's very easy to use Penpot just like Figma. It lacks many features at the moment like plugins, auto layout as I mentioned before, interactive components, variants, but in my opinion it has lots of potential to compete with Figma. So what are your thoughts about Penpot? Can it replace Figma in the near future? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching this video and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Have a lovely day and see you soon.